Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to the AC's Jeremy Plays Kerbal Space Program. Now, basically what I'm going to do here is, for a couple of hours every night, I'm going to play a brand new Kerbal Space Program game. So, lost stock vessels. Let's see. Yeah, we'll go ahead and go for normal difficulty, and I'll name this one Twitch Stream. And as opposed to a single, okay, this is how you do it little mini video, you'll actually get to see Kerbal Space Program Career Mode gameplay out of this. So, we're going to go ahead and start. Yeah, I've got it. As you'd probably imagine, I have played this one I've played this game just a little bit. Gather scientific data from Kerbal is always a good one to start with. Also, launch your first vessel, good one to start with. Now, of course, I have as many active contracts as I can get, but those ones are really just super easy to get. Yeah. Okay, one of the things that you are going to want to look at later on is using cheaper parts for this whole thing, but since this is our first vessel, we're kind of limited as to exactly what we can have here. So, set that. And one of the things you're going to have to do whenever you're working with a new design is set your minimum pressure release. I generally go for 2/3. I go for a low altitude max or a low altitude full opening. That way I actually get, or I don't have to sit around and wait for forever and a day for stuff to finally finish out. Now these things, I'm actually going to put 2 of them on here, but a lot later on you'll only need 1 of them for whatever it is you're going to be doing. And then, okay. And in all honesty, you'll recognize this ship from a lot of the stock stuff, but since I don't have the stock stuff available to me, and I know that I probably should put some fins on it, but okay, what the hell, why not? But with fins and stuff, I generally do go for angle locking because it helps them to be a little bit better situated. So, no, I do not wish to have my parachute open at the same time that my engines fire. Staging is a very important thing to worry about whenever you're doing this stuff, because if you don't have your staging right, then different things happen at different times and it's not good. So, save that one and make sure who I've got launching, Jebediah Kerman, that's fine. So, launch. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and turn on SAS, but I also want to try to go a little bit north with this launch. See if maybe I can't get on over there. Now, first things first is go ahead and get a little bit of science while you're still on the ground. Now you're going to want to just hang on to it right now. 1, you don't have an antenna to transmit stuff, and 2, you get a little bit more science for it that way. But we're going to go ahead and launch. I'm going to try to push her a little bit to the north, just so I might be able to get to the monolith right now. Okay, wait for it. And now we can go ahead and stage our our parachute, and we shouldn't have much to worry about there. Okay. And yeah, we're just about to max out, so we'll go ahead and do our other goo container now and keep that experiment. And as you can see here, we've launched our first vessel, so on and so forth, and we've also got several milestones just from your first flight. You'll get quite a few of them. Gather scientific data from Kerbal. Why didn't it gather that? Oh, okay, I have to actually either recover it or transmit it, so I'll get that one as soon as I recover the vessel. So no problem there. And it does look like I might actually be coming down somewhere near the monolith. And that's just a little Easter egg. It doesn't really do anything special for you or anything. Yeah, I'm coming down fairly close to it, actually. Now later on, when you're able to plant a flag, you can get out and plant your flag and everything like that. But you gain scientific data for just about anything in this game. So it's a good idea to go ahead and do things. It may seem kind of tedious and repetitive. I mean, eventually goo canisters aren't going to give me anything on the surface here, but it's a good habit to get into, especially when you have the science stations later on. Now I'm probably... No, I managed to not lose the booster this time. Cool. Sometimes when you come down like that and you don't bother using a stack decoupler for one reason or another, your booster will explode the moment that you hit the ground. Okay, got all that. So 16.5 science for that stuff, and of course, next. And there's that, and there's that. And okay, return to the surface, recovered crew, first one of our experiments at home, so on and so forth. And this is the actual contract completion. So, let's see. Yeah, one of the first things that you're going to notice is that you're always going to be running out of cash if you're not careful with stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and accept that strategy. It'll cost me a little bit in reputation, but you gain reputation for every tiny little thing in this game. But also, facilities cost money to upgrade. So if you don't... if you aren't careful with that, then, you know, you can actually end up with a lot of money being charged there. Plus, it costs money to recruit more Kerbals for later on missions. Okay, focused observational surveys, or UG missions. Okay, escape the atmosphere, orbit Kerbal. Oh, let's see what R&D has to offer us. Okay, for 5 I can get that fun stuff, and that's a really good one for more science. That's a good one because it actually lets you transmit crew reports back at full value. But that's the first antenna you get, and I have 15 left. So I could get this one, which would be the survivability upgrade, which can be quite useful actually. So let's see what we've got here. Oh, I do so hate doing focused observational surveys, but it's a decent way to get some more money. I just hate doing missions that don't give me more science. So I'm going to take escape the atmosphere and orbit Kerbal. And let's see what we can see here. Now, of course, escaping the atmosphere is just insanely simple. At least in this game it is. Okay, I've got a swivel, hammers, and fleas still. So, structural stuff, you're gonna want a stack decoupler, but not quite yet. You're gonna want to equip... There we go. Heat shield underneath the science thing, as well as a stack decoupler underneath that. Because the stack decoupler is going to mean that your parachutes have a lot less weight to bring down. Okay, so... Okay, parachutes are set now, and this one's going to be... Now, the main thing to consider here is when you're trying to build at least an atmospheric escape craft, is that weight is everything. Now, of course, I forgot to set my my symmetry rule there, so I only ended up with one parachute instead of the two that I wanted. And also, so yeah, it's listed under science items. I have no idea why this thing decides to list antennas under science items. It seems very utility to me, but that's just my opinion on the matter. Now, I really hate the way that that looks with it being all, you know, pointed off to the side like that. I like it pointed a bit more forward. Okay. Engines. Fuel tanks. What the hey? Let's stick some fuel tanks on this thing. And then I'm going to put a swivel on the bottom of that. And then just to get us... Oh. That sucks. Okay. There's a particular part I'm used to having that I don't have yet. So I'm just going to have to improvise. Now, one of the biggest problems with something like this is that your decouplers are about as firm as a soft pillow. These things will flop around like all get out, especially if you have even the slightest imbalance in your craft. You can end up with all kind of flop around going on there. So, especially right now, since I don't have the radial decouplers, and they're almost as bad as the stack decouplers are. But since I don't have the radial decouplers, then I'm just going to have to try to build this thing vertically, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to end up overcoming my weight limitation on some of this stuff. So, okay, that one fires, then that fires, then that one fires. In fact, I'm just going to go ahead and set those up to fire together. Then that one fires, then my engine comes online. And then, of course, the last one fires, and all of that stuff happens. Hopefully, this thing will at least get me into space. But we will see. I'm going to go ahead and call this the Orbiter 1, because I know there are going to be more iterations of this. Especially as I unlock some more science. Okay, so save, and make sure I've got a pilot. Yep. Launch. Okay, now let's see if we can even get off the ground. Yay, we're flying! Woohoo! And the hammer is actually not bad. I'm pulling nearly 2 Gs here. Okay. Oh yeah, turn the SAS on always. SAS is your friend. Stability assistance, you will never use anything quite as much as you use that. Now RCS, of course, I don't have any RCS right now. RCS is what's known as Reaction Control System. Basically, it's those little puffy jet things that you see in every single movie that is even halfway decently designed. Okay, I'm going to switch to map view so I can figure out what my apoapsis is looking like. It's only looking... yeah, it's not looking like anything good right now. So let's see if we can't get our last engine here to actually give us enough of a kick to get up into space. Come on, come on, we can do it, we can do it! And I'm losing fuel like all get out. Yay, I have enough to actually get me into space. Anything past 70,000 meters is space. And yeah, my apoapsis is currently at 124,000 meters. And of course I'll lose speed all the way up until then, and I'll even end up losing a little bit in my my peak there because of the simple fact that I'm still traveling through atmosphere right now. Okay, and I can bring up that whole thing there. Yay! I do believe that we just made orbit. So, I know beyond the shadow of a doubt that I am never actually going to be able to get into a stable orbit the way that I am. So I'm going to go ahead and run my science. Keep it. Close the doors. And then observe the mystery goo. Keep it. And then crew report. Transmit that sucker off. And then I'm going to save the other mystery goo until... I don't have a lot of power left. Until I can get back onto the surface here. And of course that involves waiting until I'm actually headed back towards Kerbal, so we're gonna speed things up a little bit. The time warp factor is one of the very few things that will keep you from going absolutely bug house while playing this game. Now I'm starting to come back in, just starting to hit the atmosphere. I'm gonna want to slow down, which means I'm gonna burn what's left of my liquid fuel in order to slow down. Because if you come burning in entirely too fast, you will burn up. Now I'm going to jettison that part so my heat shield takes what's left. Now you'll notice I'm staying very carefully aimed at retrograde here. What that means is that I'm aiming the nose of my ship away from my direction of travel. And that means that the heat shield, which is on the bottom here, can actually take as much of the friction from slowing us down as possible. And we're starting to hit the firmer parts of the atmosphere. And yeah, adjust to retrograde. And okay, plasma's gone. Here's hoping, here's hoping, here's hoping. Slow down, slow down, slow down. I've got to wait until these are no longer red. Ah, crap. This one just died. And it's going to give me some options. I'm going to revert to launch. Which of course means that all those messages that I just got were completely and utterly null or just became completely and utterly null and void, but so be it. Okay, turn on my SAS and engines up to full, and let's go. We're going to try this again. Now I know what most of that problem was. Most of that problem was the fact that I let myself go straight up and then straight back down. So I really need to try to get a little bit of arc into this. So I come in a lot shallower, and my orbital insertion isn't quite this, you know, horrendous scream into the atmosphere, just going straight down, and that's probably going to be too much. But maybe we can hold it. I know I didn't put any fins on this thing at all, which was not the smartest move I could have made. But we'll see what happens here. Okay, are we at least going to make space? Maybe not. We'll see what happens. I'm aiming prograde, which is giving me the best possible chance of doing so. I've even got some plasma sheeting off from the speed of my exit of the atmosphere. Yes, we are at least going to make space. Woohoo! See if we can't add just a wee bit to that. Okay, still going prograde, still doing pretty good there. Okay, I'm going to cut my engines because I should, yeah, I've got enough distance there. I should actually be able to survive this now, but we'll see what happens. Okay, come on, come on. Yeah, you see, that's a lot nicer re-entry angle there. So at least it won't completely and utterly rip me apart when I come back in. And of course I'm still getting all of those messages again. Okay, we have hit space, so run our experiments again, so on and so forth. Yeah, that's the one problem with reverting, is you get nothing out of everything that you did there beforehand, so yeah. Okay. Escape the atmosphere. Yeah, reach space. Okay. Let's fast forward just a wee bit here. And then we're now going to aim retrograde and wait for the fireworks to start. Yeah, you may notice that the time warp is completely different when you're inside an atmosphere, and your time warp, your maximum time warp, is actually limited by your altitude above whatever body it is you're in the space around, so on and so forth. Okay, broke another land distance record. And now we're starting to hit the outer edges of the atmosphere, so I'm going to turn my engines back on and try to get rid of some speed that way. Okay, I'm going to drop that section, and hopefully I won't be just too deep into the atmosphere by the time that I've lost enough speed for me to pop my parachutes without just destroying them like I did last time. I may have just been entirely too impatient there, but still. It's annoying when you're dropping several hundred meters per second and you're having to deal with human reaction time here. Okay, dangerous, safe. Yeah, that was a nasty jolt, and then some. Because if you'll notice, my G meter shot up well into the 15 Gs. So yeah, really nasty little bump to go through there. Okay, speed things up. At least I'm coming in over the water. Oh yeah, another fun thing that you can do here is get rid of that, because it is totally unnecessary after this point. Okay, now one of the things, and I have noticed this to be true, is you do not want to hit the ground under time warp. It is very bad sometimes. Sometimes you'll be lucky and it won't completely mess you up. Sometimes it will just totally wreck you if you hit the ground under time warp. I'm going to turn the SAS off because it's not as important now, because my parachutes are pretty much handling all of my control, and Yeah, there we go. Okay, we touched down again. Now, run the other mystery goo because we're in a different part of the planet, so... And we're also splashed down. Let's see if crew report won't give us anything. Yeah, actually it will. So let's see if we can transmit that data, if we actually have enough power. No, we don't. Okay, so we'll just have to hang on to that and recover vessel. And yay, we recovered our first space flight. So now we have tons more science and we can go and have a lot more fun with this stuff, and that is what I'm talking about as being one of the most important items you will ever have in this game, is the radial decoupler. Okay. And I'm also going to go ahead and get that thing, and everything at the next level is now 45 science, and since I don't have enough... Okay. So, I still have that one contract, but I can look at these other ones and see if there's anything... Yeah, I love that stuff. Ferry tourists, of all things. I haven't even managed to actually get into orbit yet, and it's already asking me to ferry tourists. Now, these things right here, it may sound pretty simple. Okay, all I have to do is get it up into suborbital trajectory. Yeah, until you realize that you've got to have it between 200 and 210,000 meters above the surface. Then you use the thing. So, yeah, that can be fun. This one, you actually have to get it up into orbit between those. This one, you can't even light the thing off. And this is a solid fuel booster that you're talking about hanging on to without getting any use out of it until you are between, you know, and it's very specific, 460 meters per second to 540 meters per second. That's a very narrow range, in all honesty. In all honesty, that's a very narrow range of altitudes there. So, I mean, stuff like this, it may seem pretty simple, but it can get really complicated really fast with that stuff. And I'm not even going to bother with all these observational surveys that they want me to do, because that stuff is literally just ugh. It's boring, especially after the first time. Ferry VIP to their destination, it's not even really worth the money for it. Ferry to tourists, And you can do this, you can decline contracts all day long until you actually get to something that's worthwhile. Okay, I mean, like this one. You know, you can actually... That's simply haul the heat shield with you. It's all you have to do. It's really not all that hard until you start looking at this stuff. Okay? And that can be a really hard range to hit. But in all honesty, it gives me some science. It actually gives me a lot of money compared to the overall cost of a simple heat shield like that. So let me take a look real quick, but I'm probably going to decide to just have that one on me. Oh, these are really wonderful things to have, is either the landed or the at launch site, like this one. Rockomax brand decoupler. That one, yeah. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and take that one because it gives me science, it gives me money, a little bit of reputation, and is just super easy to do. I mean, this is literally the easiest thing you could possibly imagine doing. I'm going to go ahead and pull up a new one here. Okay. Thing is, that is literally all that you have to do. Okay? Yes, it's an exploit, but if it works, cool. Because now I can go out to the launch site, I can do this one real quick, and it's got me another contract. And there we go. we have now completed that contract, and we can recover the vessel. Our guys, our astronaut is not in any danger there. Yes, he doesn't get any experience from it, but experience is kind of a weird thing in this game. You get experience for very specific things. Now this one I still don't quite get. Test the Mark 55 Thud liquid fuel engine splashdown at Kerbal. That means you can't even activate the thing until you are in the water. So yeah, that one's just weird. And I'm going to take this this launch site test and go take care of it real quick. In all honesty, this is the kind of stuff that NASA used to do. They used to do just, sitting on the ground type tests like that. Now the biggest problem with this thing is I'm not entirely sure as to how much force it's going to impart, so I'm going to take the precaution of putting a parachute on this thing. Okay. And yeah, I know I didn't take care of that or anything, but yeah. Okay, completed that test, and no, I didn't need the parachute, but still. I did that one time with a robotic control unit, and it launched the thing just insanely high into the air, and it was one of the smaller stack decouplers, not even the Rockomax. Because the Rockomax decoupler is just insane as far as how much power it imparts. But yeah, I did it with a little probe control unit, and it was insane what happened. Because those things are just so light. Okay, yeah, let's take a look at I'm going to take that one because I'll probably be able to fulfill it easily, as well as that one, and most likely that one. Okay. Let's go ahead and the big thing about contracts is you want to make sure that you can fulfill them. Because if you can't, it's going to cost you. So, I mean, you really want to make sure that you can fulfill your contracts. Okay, let's see what we've got here. Got the heat shield on there. Got the Mark 16 parachute on there. Okay, they're requiring that I take a hammer with me, which I have. Cool. Not a problem. And that I orbit Kerbal. Okay. So, now for my favorite part, and I'm pretty sure anybody who's ever played this game, this has got to be their favorite part as well. The radial stack decoupler. Or the radial decoupler, I should say. Because it lets you do really fun things like this. Oh yeah, I've got new fuel tanks to play with. So take those off and put a couple more of these on there. And now this thing is of course starting to get more than a little bit weird. So and I'm going to need a little bit more control, especially as I'm going up. So I'm going to go ahead and stick that sucker on there. Now I've managed space already. So one of the things I really don't need on this one is that whole Science Junior thing, which is in all honesty going to make this whole thing much more efficient because that thing weighs a ton. Okay, I don't need the mystery goo either. I can just go straight up as is and actually probably be pretty good with just this setup. So, the Orbiter 2 is born and ready to go. And I'm actually going to swap in Valentina so she gets a little experience off of this. And launch. And of course now I can't actually launch the thing because I need to upgrade my launch pad. So, once again, launch. Okay, I forgot to do a little bit of my stack sorting there. But fortunately I can still do it while I'm doing this whole thing. Turn that on and let's go. And of course I'm getting a little bit of wobble out of this. The physics in this game are okay, they're actually fairly accurate, but there's some minor inconsistencies here and there. Yeah, because I'm trying to yaw and it's giving me roll instead, so let's get rid of those suckers and see if we can't get a little bit of that eastward direction that we need for a good orbit. And then go ahead and fire those suckers off and try to keep ourselves from pointing at the ground while thrusting. That's generally a bad idea to point at the ground when your engines are going more or less full blast. Okay, let's see what we got here. Yeah, that figures. Let's see, how high am I going to get here? Oh, not bad. I'll see if that one will actually decide to hold out there. Because, yeah, I mean, even though I've got the thing on me, I've still got to meet all of those little conditions. And that can be very fiddly. Yep, see. Okay, now we are actually trying to establish an orbit. And the main thing in that is just getting us enough thrust or enough velocity going that when we fall back, we actually miss the planet. That is all that orbital geometry is falling towards an object and missing it repeatedly. And that hammer is now spent, so let's go with this whole thing. And maybe, just maybe, we'll be able to get ourselves an orbital trajectory here. Now, since I'm already in space, I realize I said that, you know, aiming at the ground may not be the best idea in the world, but I actually want to shift my orbit enough that I get a little bit more periapsis. Oh, great. And I'm out of fuel. So I still didn't manage to get orbit this time. Joy. Okay, at least I'm probably not going to die. But I am going to wait until I get out to the end here, and then I'll take a crew report. Yeah. And then we'll see what happens when I do this. Yeah, I'm just going to hang on to that sucker. Okay, and we keep on going. And that's why you don't hit the atmosphere going quite the way I did. Okay. Let's try this again. I promise I'm actually not half bad at playing this game. I just really need to be careful with that thing. Okay, and launch we do. As I said, I'm going to try to get myself just a little bit of that eastward angle. Start trying to push it off to the east. Because you really want to start getting that orbital trajectory a little bit early. I almost managed it that first time, so we'll see what happens here. But because I'm using a 3 setup here, it's not really working out all that well. Okay, get us pointed in the right direction, and here we go. Okay, once again, first let's see exactly how high we're going to end up. Wow, we're doing pretty good there. And yeah, again, you know, the biggest problem here is that I really don't want to wait until I re-enter the atmosphere, which is, you know, not that far away before I fire my next one. So I'm going to go ahead and try to get myself some orbit here. Now the best time to do that, in all honesty, is right at 100,000 meters. So if I can stage this just right, come on, almost. Please don't make me use time warp. Really hate to have to do that. There we go. Now by doing it there, it actually gives me the best influence on my periapsis, which is way over on... It's actually still in the planet right now. And yeah, I'm burning through solid fuel like all get out. And now I'm out. And one of the things to remember is that a liquid fuel engine you do not have to run at full burn, which is one of the mistakes that I was making earlier. But if you run it at a lower state, you can actually get a little bit better control, but I'm still trying to push for a full-on orbit here. And being at apoapsis gives me the best chance of getting that. There we go, there we go, there we go. And we have full orbit. Sweet. And we have now orbited Kerbal. Cool. Okay. So, now for the fun part. How much fuel do I have left? Actually, a pretty good amount. So, I am going to... Oh, it's still not letting me have maneuvers yet. Yeah, that'll take a couple more upgrades. See if a crew report will actually do me any good right now. Crew report, nothing, so never mind. In that case, I am simply going to wait until I get around to periapsis, which is the closest approach in my orbit, which is currently at 92,000 meters, or 92 kilometers above the surface. And then, okay. Now, I'm going to point myself retrograde, because that literally means away from the direction of my motion, and I'm going to do this, which is going to bring me down... wrong button. Figures. Okay. Either way, I should still be entering fairly shallowly along that course there. I can use a little bit of time warp. And here we go. Let's point ourselves retrograde, and we are inside the atmosphere. Okay, come on, come on. Come on now, you can make it. Now what I'm really waiting for here is a little bit of that plasma disturbance as the atmosphere heats up, pretty much because I'm hitting it moving at, 4,000 miles an hour. And then just as that starts to happen, I pop my engines up to full, which gives me just a little bit of, or which allows me to cut off just a little bit of speed there. And then the rest of it, I can go ahead and hopefully bleed off with my heat shield. And yeah, why don't we go ahead and transmit a crew report while we're doing this. Now, one of the nice things about coming in at this kind of angle is you can just bleed off an insane amount of speed real quick. And you're also not losing too much altitude while you're at it, because that can get rather worrisome when you start losing entirely too much altitude because you're traveling more or less straight down. But of course, it's always important to try to keep yourself pointed retrograde. At least when you're making an atmospheric insertion like this. And you have to remember that retrograde is going to continue to change because your course is actually changing. Gravity is pulling you down, air resistance is slowing you down. So, yeah. Okay, we're past the worst parts now. Only lost about 12 points off of our ablator, which is this big thing right here. Heat shield. That's what most people would call it. Okay. Now we're slowing down quite a bit simply from continued atmospheric resistance. And we're finally to the point where it's safe to go ahead and stage our parachute. Now, it won't actually deploy until we reach the right pressure. And then it won't fully deploy until we get to the right altitude. Yeah. Now we're at the right pressure. It goes ahead and deploys that. And I'm going to go ahead and jettison the heat shield so it's not pulling us down any faster, which of course means that it hits the ground and it goes boom. But that's just what heat shields do. And if you think landing on Kerbal is bad, wait until you start trying to land on some of the other planets, especially the ones without an atmosphere. And simply landing on the Mun can be a real pain in the butt. Oh yeah, and don't trust that when you're coming down over land, because you see ground level is 574 meters above sea level, and that reads always in sea level. I understand that there is a mod out there, but I'm just playing straight vanilla game right now. Okay, we got some more science, and oh yeah, I forgot to get that crew report at the end, but so be it. Okay, and we actually don't have, or actually, yeah, we have all these contracts here. You see, even that one, I had the heat shield through that entire flight. It never met all of those conditions. So, yeah. Let's see what other contracts we got here. Suborbital trajectory, flight over Kerbal, liquid fuel engines splash down at Kerbal, flight, yada yada yada. Let's see what we got here. This one I'm gonna take, but I'm actually kind of gonna cheat at it a little bit. Because you may notice that, you know, while this isn't necessarily a bad craft, in fact, before I do that, it just barely makes orbit at all. So, yeah, and you may remember the Terrier. This one finally unlocks it. That is going to be very important as soon as you get to things like those. But those aren't really all that useful until you really get to the bigger engines. Okay, I'm not even bothering with the whole spaceplane thing, but this stuff can actually be very important. The Communotron, really good antenna. You'll use it later on, especially if you do a lot of satellites and probes and stuff. Thermometer, it gives you a little bit more science data that you can get, and also having a battery is a wonderful thing. So I'm actually going to go for that one to start with. Okay. Let us see. I'm going to take that off and take that off. I'm going to take that sucker off of there. I'm going to put a thumper in its place. Now, you may notice I'm kind of extending below the ground there, so yeah, just grab your main pod, and that can actually get really hard later on as you're trying to get certain things done, but yeah, you just grab your main whatever it is you've got and stick it up there. Or just use it to adjust the height of the entire ship, because that lets you select the entire ship. Okay, so I've got those three there, then they fire off, except I don't want it to go like that. I actually want it to go like that, because I'm trying for that particular that particular contract. I'm going to try to get those exact figures there, and then I'll fire off that one. But with any luck, the other three thumpers will be able to get me up to that point. If not, then this is an entirely wasted exercise, so let's see what happens. And actually, this is the Orbiter 3. I just overwrote the Orbiter 2, but so be it. So let's see what happens here. And if you're going to take the time to go ahead and do contracts, you're going to be doing a lot of piddly stuff like this. It's just the way it is. Yeah, Valentina gained a level of experience, so now she has prograde and retrograde lock. So, here we go. And I don't know if this is actually going to work. Nope, it's not. Figures. Either way. Okay. And now I'm going too fast. Come on, come on. Yeah, as I said, trying to get these specific flight conditions contracts are just always, it's a very hit or miss type thing. Yeah. So yeah, now we just try to get into orbit again. And there goes the last of my solid rocket boosters. Yeah, just thrusting slowly right now because I'm not quite to that point yet. And I'm also doing my best not to have to revert any of these flights, so... That's the whole reason that I'm actually carrying through with this flight right now. Okay. Yeah, right-click pinning is actually a really nice little thing to have. Okay. Now, I'm going to show you something that's actually kind of cool. It's a technique known as aero braking. It's actually real. It's used in real space flight. I'm going to set myself up with a retrograde hold here. Now, you'll notice my engines are off. I'm not using any fuel or anything. And I'll be able to get an adjustment in my orbit as I pass through the lower part of my orbit. I've actually had to use this in other games just to be able to get down, because I burned entirely too much fuel going out. And okay, now we're in the atmosphere. And as I pass through the atmosphere, you'll notice that both my periapsis and my apoapsis start decreasing rather heavily. And of course I want to be facing prograde or retrograde, that way I end up taking all of the heat of this maneuver on my engines, which are actually designed for that kind of heat. Now, I'm not going deep enough in the atmosphere yet to have to worry about true re-entry heating. But yeah, you see, you can cut a lot off of that. I was coming in from I want to say a couple million kilometers, trying to just cut the orbit each time I came through. I still had some fuel, but I wanted to save it for braking maneuvers as I finally came down and was no longer able to even maintain an orbit. And I got down to, what was it? 250,000 meters, about 250 kilometers. And I finally, I just came in for one more aero braking, and it cut so much distance off of it that I never left the atmosphere again. Okay, still plowing atmosphere, but I'm starting to work my way back out of the atmosphere now. And as soon as I hit 70,000 meters, then that's it, I'm out of the atmosphere. And it will... And I just lost SAS because I just lost power. Okay, so now we just be floating. And of course I didn't put an extra battery on this thing, and I also didn't I don't have access to solar panels yet, so I'm just gonna have to wait until I have to fire my engine again, because as far as I know, all of the liquid engines have alternators in them, which is a nice little thing to have. And that'll give me power again, so I'll be able to maneuver and hopefully hold retrograde for my next aero braking. And we are in space again. And yeah, as I said, cannot warp faster than 50x while below 120,000 meters, which means I'll actually get very little time at the higher time warp there. 90,000, 80,000. Okay, coming around on 70,000. I want to slow down. That way I don't hit the atmosphere with too much of a weirdness to it. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and step my engines up just a little bit so I can get a little... No, I don't want prograde. I don't want prograde. I want retrograde. There we go. Gives me just enough power to maneuver with. Doesn't burn too much fuel. And come on, come on. Yeah, as of right now, I will never leave the atmosphere again, so I'm not going to bother with the map anymore. I'm just simply going to... Yeah, maneuvering under time warp is not recommended. It is very easy to end up with all sorts of weirdness going on there. Okay, we are headed slowly but surely down. And unfortunately we're still gaining speed because the air pressure or the air thickness isn't enough to actually start slowing us down yet. But we've got pretty much half the planet to orbit before we really have to worry about much of anything. Okay, now we're starting to really plow atmosphere here. So we want to make sure that we're pointing retrograde. And I'm going to go ahead and burn everything that's left here. You'll notice how quickly we just lose speed there. Okay, come on. There we go. And yeah, getting down in there again and still accelerating the whole time. Okay, now we can go ahead and jettison our heat shield, which unfortunately goes nowhere because we're still going so fast that it'll just stay right there on us. And stage our parachutes. I can actually put us on... Yeah, you see, that's the biggest problem with the retrograde hold, is it makes so many tiny little adjustments, you end up jittering. At least when you're in atmosphere, it's really annoying. In fact, best thing to do is as soon as your chute finally deploys, just turn your SAS off. Okay, I actually managed to finish one of those contracts that I had. So, cool. Yeah, still haven't even lost the heat shield yet. There it goes. I can just turn the SAS off and it'll keep me pointed in the right direction. Okay, that barely managed to finish. And nope, no good there. Okay, so we are ready to recover this vessel. Okay. This, that, and the other. Not really all that terribly much, but at least we managed to finish out that one particular contract. So we might get a little bit different choices in contracts here. Yeah. This is the kinds that I'm really waiting on, is stuff like Fly by the Mun. And what's really nice about this is the rest of these have a duration, which is you have to do it within that time period. Stuff like this one, no duration, because it's part of more or less the storyline of the game. So you have as much time as you want to go ahead and finish this. And you get these for practically every single planet. And some of them will have multiple goals or multiple objectives that as you finish them off, you go ahead and get credit for them. It's not like these testing ones where all of these different conditions have to be met. You can do them in order over the course of even more than one mission. So I'm going to go ahead and take that one. I was going to go ahead and take that one because I can do it really quick. Okay, I hope you guys have enjoyed hanging out with me. I'm going to go ahead and call it a night. So let me just save this sucker and quit to the main menu. You guys have a good night, and I will hopefully you guys will decide to join us on Wednesday night, when both Calvin and I will be here playing Portal 2 and basically betraying the hell out of each other. So you guys have a good one. Night.